flipping houses? I'm going to give you 3 things you really need to concentrate on flipping houses here in Santa Cruz. And then I'm also going to give you some tips or some hints to making it work here in Santa Cruz. Or maybe you'll hear the video and you'll think maybe that wouldn't work for me. That's possible. Okay, first thing you need to know and to have available is cash. Cash is king in the flipping business. First, it makes your carrying costs less. You just don't have to pay a loan while you're doing the work on the house. Second, if you want to buy a house on the courthouse steps, which is a way to get a foreclosure here in Santa Cruz, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but you do need cash for that as well. And then you also really just need cash to get the best deal, because a lot of times sellers, entities, trust sales, they gravitate to cash buyers. So that's the number one thing that you really need to make it work is cash. Number 2, you need a good contractor that's going to work with you and has the patience actually to go through the process with you, because it could be that if you get a probate sale or you do get a foreclosure, it may be a little while before you actually get possession of the house. So that's something to think about too. I had a foreclosure I was selling in January. I don't think we closed till almost the end of February, I want to say. It was actually a 6-week close because the buyer and the buyer financing they wanted to do took a while, and they were kind of hanging their contractor up. I kept getting these messages from the buyer's agent that the contractors were ready to go. And I was like, okay, fine, close it. I mean, it wasn't really our side, but you need somebody who is going to be ready for you, or if not, maybe just a few weeks after you close, they can start work, because again, it's back to the carrying costs of property. And then the third thing, and then I'm going to explain a little bit more about some of these nuances here in a minute. But the third thing I want to give you is capital gains. The reason it's much more entangled for somebody to get into flipping houses, if they're just kind of not a realtor, they're just a straight investor, is the capital gains are really preventing a lot of people from jumping in, just because they just don't want to pay the capital gains on it, because it could actually eat into quite a bit of your profit. And then there's also the permit process as well that can get a little tangled up. So you need cash. You need to have a contractor that's with you for the long haul, and depending on the work that they're going to be doing, of course, a good negotiation with that contractor to make sure that you have some profit at the end. And then there's capital gains, and then there's the permitting process. But first, let me tell you, you've hung in this far. Let me give you a really good hint. Santa Cruz Record. It is a publication, and I'm going to highlight here a page from it here. It has foreclosures that are listed that will be sold on the courthouse steps. And to buy those homes, you need cash. I got calls. I've gotten so many calls over the years, not so many this year, but over the years, I get all these calls like, well, I want to buy a foreclosure. And I said, well, the best deal you can get on a foreclosure is to buy it on the courthouse steps, and you need cash. They take cashier's checks, and I think they take wires, but they don't take personal checks. They don't want to deal with your lender or getting a loan. They want cash. Now, let me tell you something else about the foreclosure list that you'll see in the Santa Cruz Record. And keep in mind, I'm going to link Santa Cruz Record below, so you'll have that resource for you if you want to look into this here in Santa Cruz. The other thing about the foreclosure list is you have to understand is it'll have a list of about 9 to 10 addresses here. You'll see here. And when you look at that, you highlight that address and you go, oh, look, there's one on 123 Main Street. I've always wanted to live on that street. I'm going to buy that, and I'm going to make it great for myself. I'm so excited. You go to the auction, or you go to the courthouse steps to see what the process is, because a lot of it's done online, but there's some bidding that I believe happens down there. Honestly, I've never been. I need to go. And you get there. This is something I do know. You get there, and it'll have a list that are canceled. And more than likely, the property that you really wanted, not the one that was up in some crazy borough of Boulder Creek or some area of South County that you're not interested in, those will probably be there. But the one you really wanted is gone. Why? Well, because while it shows their loan amount there, it won't show what is actually needed to cure the loan or to make things right with the bank. I'll give you an example. 2 summers ago, I had a good friend of ours here in the neighborhood, and I saw him on there. And I called him and I said, Joe, what's happening? Joe, why are you on here? You have a property that's worth at least $1.5 million here on the west side. And it says you only owe $250. What's going on? And he said, oh, well, actually, I only need 10 million. 10 million. Yeah, I only need 10 million. We all only need 10 million. I only need to give them $10,000 and then I'll be right with them. They'll be fine. And I was like, Joe, what are you doing? Do you have that money? And he said, yeah, I've got it. I'm like, pay them. They're going to take your house. So those kind of interactions happen where it becomes known that a friend or family member may lose one of the largest assets of their whole life. And either people can come together and give them short-term loans, they can become partners in the property, or I know some family members just straight up pay it and then, work out a deal with the buyer, the owner later. But you will see those really popular locations, great properties, usually they get cured and they get paid off. That's the same for tax sales. Forever and a day, people like, who is that guy who said, I cannot remember. It's Kawasaki, I believe. But he would say, you can make your money in foreclosures or, this is how you make money in real estate. And one of the things that he suggested was tax lien sales. And here in Santa Cruz, when a property has not paid their taxes, and I believe it's 5 years, I think that's the rule, the lien is put up for it and then it's put up to auction. They all get cured. And I one summer drove around with a buyer and I just went through the process and I knew she wasn't going to buy. I knew she wasn't going to be successful, but I wanted to see what it looked like. So we drove to 10 properties. We drove by them all. Only 2 out of the 10 were even worth dealing with. And the other ones were like properties with big gaping, like a meteor hit it. And I mean, they were just, and then we drove by the 2 and I went, they're not going to go to auction. They're going to get rescued. They're going to cure it. They just waited till the last minute. I promise you. And sure enough, they got cured. So I kind of digressed from the 3 things that I was talking about, that you need cash, contractor, and to think about capital gains and permitting, the government piece of it. And I talked a little bit about why foreclosure sales are fraught with problems based on the fact that we are such a high rent district here in Santa Cruz that people will come in and save people to save the property, and tax lien sales typically don't work either. So how am I going to get a flip? Well, you're going to get a property to flip through an agent that may know of it, or for sale by owner online, possibly. There are corporations out there you'll be competing against, LLCs, corporations that actually have websites, they have apps, they have programs that tell them when people are going into foreclosure. So a lot of them are on the courthouse steps and they have a profile of that property, and they will more than likely beat you just based on how they know how to run that type of business. So your competition can be tough in this field as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention that I talked about in the beginning is getting a loan. The reason banks don't like to loan on distressed properties is because this is why you need cash really to get a property that's in distress or, needs work, is they don't like to loan on properties that somebody might abandon because of the amount of work that needs to be done. Because what we learned in the last mortgage meltdown was a lot of the properties that got abandoned or the payments got got stopped is because the owner of that property was trying to fix that property, and they were using their mortgage money to fix the property to make it even livable. Bad kitchens, bad rooms, bad foundation, bad roof, a leaky roof. And so what would happen is they'd stop making the mortgage trying to fix the house, or they'd just give up on all of it altogether, and they just give up. So lenders went, well, we don't want to loan on these properties because the high amount of them getting abandoned is too high. That's just a risk we don't want to take. Now, how do they find out about that? Now is with the appraiser. The appraiser would call out issues on the home, and the bank would review it, do their own drive-by, and determine that they don't want to loan on that property. And that's one of the reasons lenders don't like to loan on these distressed properties. The other thing is if they know you're going to flip, a lot of traditional lenders, they don't want a short-term loan. They make their money in the long haul. So cash is really the best way to do a flip. You need a good contractor that can help you and at least schedule you in. You need to have a good bookkeeper CPA in your pocket to help you understand the actual cost of the home, what you're going to make in profit, how much it's going to take to fix it, the carrying cost, and what you're going to actually net at the end of the day, because that may determine that flipping houses is not going to work. I mean, it's super difficult in Santa Cruz because a fixer-upper is usually $1 million plus, and then you got to think about all the work that you got to put into it. And then you have to hope that when you're done, the market that you actually put that home on in is going to support the price you're going to need to pay for the home. So if you're going to pay over $1 million, you got to put $250 in it. You've got to get permits. You've got to pay capital gains on that profit. Will that all work in the market that you actually present the property in? So there's a lot to think about. I have filmed this video multiple times trying to get all the points in without being, crazy and all over the place. So the main things are you really need a good amount of cash. You need some good resources, Santa Cruz Record, and a realtor to help you designate some properties that'll work for you. You need a good contractor, and you need a good CPA. Hey, I hope this video worked for you. I hope that you learned something. If you have more questions, please let me know. Text me, comment. I'd love to help you. And like, share, and what else? Follow me on my socials and subscribe. I hope this helped. Bye.